Hi friends, Allie here. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to crochet the Bonfire blanket. This crochet blanket features beautiful texture, an easy to remember 2-stripe repeat, and twisted fringe on the ends. The finished size is approximately 60 inches by 45 inches, but you can adjust the size to be perfect for you. To adjust the length of the blanket, work any odd number of stitches across for row 1, and to adjust the width, just repeat the 2-stripe repeat as many times until your desired width is reached. The Bonfire blanket has a total of 15 stripes. For mine, I'll be using teal, brown, orange, and black for the textured stripes, and gray for the stripes in between. Feel free to use as many or as few colors as you'd like. Here I'll put up the brand and the color names of the yarns I used. For supplies, you'll need medium 4-weight yarn. Here's the yardage needed per color. You'll also need a 6.5mm or K hook, scissors, a yarn needle, and tape measure or ruler for the fringe. Starting with color B, we're going to begin by making a foundation double crochet. So start with a slip knot on your hook, then chain 3, then yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd chain from the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the 1st loop on your hook. There we just created our foundation chain at the bottom. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So there we worked our double crochet. So there's our foundation chain at the bottom, and there's our double crochet right there. Now we're going to work back into that foundation chain. So yarn over, insert your hook into that foundation chain we just created on the bottom, making sure you go through 2 loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the 1st loop on your hook to create that foundation chain, then yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So there we've created 2 foundation double crochets. Now working into the last foundation chain we worked, yarn over, insert your hook into that foundation chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the 1st loop on your hook to create the next foundation chain, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So there we've created 3 foundation double crochets, and we're just going to continue that across for a total of 141 foundation double crochets. So I'm just going to continue across working my 141 foundation double crochets, and I'm going to catch up with you guys when I reach the end of row 1. So I've just reached the end of row 1, and this is what we're looking like so far. And now on to row 2. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And now working back the way we just came. For rows 2 to 6, we're going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to work 1 half double crochet into the very first stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on our hook. And then in the next stitch, we're going to be working around the post of the stitch. So we're going to work a front post double crochet. So instead of working at the top of the stitch, we're going to work around the post of the stitch from the last round. So yarn over, and we're going to wrap our hook around the post, going from the front to the back, and then back around to the front again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on our hook. So there is a front post double crochet. And then into the next stitch, we're going to work a back post double crochet. So again, working around the post, yarn over, now going from the back around the post to the front, and then to the back again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So there we created a front post double crochet and a back post double crochet. So we are going to repeat those 2 stitches across until only 2 stitches remain. So we're just going to keep repeating the front post double crochet and the back post double crochet all the way across until 2 stitches remain. So I'm just going to continue going, and then I will catch up with you guys when I reach the last 2 stitches. So I'm at the end of the row and I have 2 stitches left. So in that second last stitch, I'm going to work a front post double crochet and then a half double crochet into that last stitch. So just working in the top of the stitch as normal. We're going to end with a half double crochet. So there we have row 2. And now we're just going to repeat row 2 until we reach the end of row 6. So you can already see that texture building up. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to work a half double crochet into the first stitch. And again, front post double crochet into the next stitch. So that stitch is going to be pushed back because that was a front post double crochet from the previous row. So work a front post double crochet around that second stitch and then a back post double crochet around the next stitch. So we're going to be working the front post double crochets around the front post double crochets from the previous row, and then the back post double crochets around the back post double crochets from the previous row. So we're just going to keep repeating this across, working a front post double crochet into the next stitch and then a back post double crochet around the next stitch, again until we reach the last 2 stitches. So I'm just going to continue across until I get to the last 2 stitches, and I'll catch up with you guys there. And I'm just reaching the end, so in the second last stitch I'm going to work a front post double crochet. And then in the last stitch, I'm going to work a half double crochet into the top of that stitch. So now we've just reached the end of row 3, and this is what we're looking like. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now on to row 4. So we are just going to keep repeating what we've been working for the past 2 rows. We're going to repeat that until the end of row 6. So we have 3 more rows to do this. So I'm just going to continue on, and I'm going to catch up with you guys when I reach the end of row 6, and then we will change to the next textured stripe. So just continue on repeating half double crochet in the first stitch, then front post double crochet and back post double crochet across, front post double crochet in the second last stitch, and then half double crochet into the last stitch. Just repeat that until we reach the end of row 6, and then I'll catch up with you guys there and we'll move on to the next stripe. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 6, so I just have my last 2 stitches of row 6 left. And on that last stitch, I'm going to change colors for my next stripe. So I'm going to start my half double crochet as normal. But then instead of doing my final pull through with my current color, I'm going to drop that color and change to my next color. So I'm using this gray color, and I'm going to do my final pull through with my new color. And then I'm going to continue on with my new color. So you can cut off the previous color, and now we're just going to continue on with the new color and move on to our next stripe. So I'm going to cut off that old color, and then I'm just going to tie it to the short tail of my new color. And then I'm just going to weave in all of my ends at the end. Feel free to weave in your ends as you go though. So now moving on to row 7 and on to our next stripe. So I already had a chain 1 there. So now I'm going to half double crochet into each stitch across. So working in the top of the stitch as normal, we're just going to work 1 half double crochet into each stitch across. And we're just going to repeat that all the way to the end of row 12. So the next 6 rows, we're just going to be working a half double crochet into each stitch across, then chain 1 at the end of the row, and then just repeat that for the next row for a total of 6 rows, and that's going to take us to the end of row 12. So I'm just going to continue on working 1 half double crochet into each stitch across, chain 1 and turn, and repeat that for the next row, and I'm just going to continue doing that until the end of row 12. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 12. And in that last stitch, I'm going to change colors again back to color B. So make sure you have a total of 6 rows of those half double crochets. And then on this last stitch, on the last pull through, I'm going to drop my current color and pick up the last color that I used. So that's color B. And then I'm going to do my final pull through with my color B. And then we'll be moving on to our next stripe. And here I'm going to chain 2. I only chain 1 here, but you're actually supposed to chain 2. And just like I did on the last color chain, I'm going to tie those 2 tails together, and then I'm just going to weave those in at the end. So this is what we're looking like so far after 2 stripes, and we're just going to pretty much be repeating these last 2 stripes until the end of our pattern. So it's going to be 1 textured stripe and then 1 half double crochet stripe. So to start off our textured stripes, we're just going to work a row of double crochets. So for row 13, we're just going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across, and this sets the base for our front post and back post double crochet stitches. So for row 13, just work 1 double crochet into each stitch across. And I'll catch up with you guys when I reach the end of row 13. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 13. When I reach the end of the row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're just going to repeat our our front post and back post double crochet rows. So for rows 14 to 18, so the next 5 rows, we are going to half double crochet into the first stitch. So in the top of the stitch, work 1 half double crochet, and then front post double crochet around that next stitch. And then back post double crochet in the next. And then we're going to repeat those 2 stitches across. So front post double crochet into the next stitch, and then back post double crochet in the next. And we're going to repeat that across until 2 stitches remain. So I'm just going to continue working my front post double crochets and my back post double crochets until 2 stitches remain, and I'll catch up with you guys at the end of the row. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 14. So I'm going to front post double crochet in the second last stitch, and then half double crochet into the last stitch, and then chain 1 and turn. And then I'm just going to repeat that last row into the end of row 18. And then I'm just going to continue on repeating the stripes. So after row 18, we're going to move on to the half double crochet stripes. and then work another textured stripe and then another half double crochet stripe. So I'm just going to continue repeating that pattern. So each stripe is 6 rows, and then at the end of each stripe I'm going to change colors. So all of my half double crochet stripes are going to be worked with that light gray color, and then all of my textured stripes are going to be worked with a color. So I'm going to do 2 textured stripes per color, and I'm just going to keep repeating that until I reach the end of the 15th stripe. So it's going to be a total of 90 rows. So 15 stripes and 90 rows, and I'm just going to continue repeating my textured stripe and then my half double crochet stripe, and keep repeating that all the way up, and it's going to end on a textured colored stripe. So I'm just going to keep going until I reach the end of my last stripe. So just keep repeating the last 2 stripes for a total of 15 stripes for a total of 90 rows, or until you reach your desired length. So yeah, I'm just going to keep repeating these last 2 stripes until the end of row 90 and the end of the 15th stripe. So I'm going to catch up with you guys when I reach the end. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 90. I'm going to chain 1 and then cut off my yarn, leaving a long enough tail that I can weave in my end. I'm just going to pull that through and secure it. There we go. And then I'll try and show you my blanket. It's kind of hard to fit under my tripod here, but I think you get the idea. So I worked a total of 90 rows and 15 stripes. So each of the textured stripes got 2 of each color, and then all the half double crochet stripes are just that gray. So now I'm going to weave in all of my ends, and then we'll move on to our fringe. So just weave in all of your ends and then we'll move on. After all of our ends are weaved in, we're going to move on to adding fringe. So feel free to finish your blanket off however you choose. If you want to leave it as is, add a border around it or regular fringe, feel free to do so. But here I'm going to add twisted fringe. So the perk of twisted fringe is that it won't fray after being used or washed like a regular fringe, and it just gives it a fun little addition to the edges. There you can see the little twists at the end. And it's actually quite easy to create, and yeah, it just gives it a fun edging. So here I'll show you how we make twisted fringe. Here my fringe is about 4 inches long, but you can make yours longer or shorter. And yeah, so I'll move on to showing you how to make our fringe. So something I do want to point out before we get started is that the front and the back of the fringe looks a little bit different. So this is the side we will be working the fringe on, and you see it has that nice flat join there, whereas on the back side it has a little bit of a ridge, and that's from working our slip stitches to attach our fringe to the edge of the blanket. So it doesn't matter what side you work your fringe on, just note that the back side is going to have that ridge and then the front side is going to be flat. So you want to make sure that you're working on the same side of the blanket for both the right and left edges so that they match, so that the ridges are both on the same side and then the flat sides are on the same side. So just keep that in mind when you're attaching your fringe. So I'm going to start here in the top corner. Sorry if the black is hard to see. I will move over after I've attached my yarn to show you how to do the fringe on the gray part, so hopefully it's easier to see. But here I'm just going to attach my yarn. So I'm going to be matching my colors. Feel free to use different colors or the same colors. You can do this however you'd like. I'm going to be doing the same color fringe for that stripe. So I'm just going to attach my yarn to the top corner there. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook and then just pull it through and secure it with a slip knot. And then here is where you're going to need your ruler or your tape measure. And we're going to be pulling that yarn through to make a long loop. And you want your fringe to all be the same, so we're going to use a tape measure or ruler to measure it so that all of our fringe is going to come out the same. So I'm going to measure mine to be 12 inches long, and that's going to make a piece of fringe that is about 4 inches long. So feel free to adjust your loop to be longer or shorter depending on how long you want your fringe to be. The important thing is that you're just consistent, so you do the same size for all of your fringe. So here I'm going to do 12 inches. That's going to give me about a 4-inch long piece of fringe. So once you're done measuring your loop, I'm going to remove my hook and hold it with my finger. So put my finger through the loop, and then I'm going to twist that loop clockwise 40 times. Now, if you're going to adjust the length of your loop, you might need to adjust that number. So I'm going to do 40 times, and you're going to know that your loop is tight enough. When you move your fingers closer together, it's going to want to curl in on itself. So I'm just going to keep twisting mine for a total of 40 times. And then I can see here that it twists in on itself, so I know that it's tight enough. So I'm going to remove my finger and put my hook in that little loop at the end. And then I'm going to slip stitch back on the edge of the blanket in the same stitch that I had attached my yarn to. And there you can see our little loop is a little twisted in on itself. So to clean that up, I'm just going to twist that counterclockwise until it's nice and neat and a nice piece of twisted fringe. And there you go. So there is our first piece of fringe. And then we're just going to repeat that all the way across. So slip stitch into the next stitch or in the edge of the next row. And you can work as many or as few pieces across as you'd like. I worked about 7 pieces of fringe per stripe. That seemed to give it a nice, even and full row. But feel free to add more or less depending on how much fringe you want. It's really up to you. Again, just be consistent. So work the same amount per stripe. So I'm just gonna move over it to where my gray stripe is so you can see better. Sorry, I know it's hard to see with the black. So I'm just gonna move over to where I start my gray fringe. So I just finished up all my black fringe there. So I have 7 pieces across, and now I'm gonna change colors to my gray. So I'm gonna insert my hook into that first row of the next color. And then I'm going to drop that old color and pick up the matching color. And then I'm gonna pull through with the new color. And slip stitch that through the old color. And then I'm just going to take that short tail end there and tie it to the previous color, and then I'll weave in those ends at the end, and you can cut off the old color as well. So here I'll show you how to do the fringe again. Hopefully you can see it better with this gray, but same idea. We're going to pull that loop so it is 12 inches long. And then I'm going to remove my hook and insert my finger and twist that loop 40 times clockwise. And then I'm going to remove my finger and replace it with my hook. And then slip stitch to the base there to the same stitch or row that we attached to. And then we're just going to clean up that loop by twisting it counterclockwise. And there we go. So now we're just going to repeat that across. So moving into the next row. we're going to slip stitch. And then we're just going to repeat the fringe instructions from the beginning. So we're going to pull a loop that's 12 inches long, twist it 40 times clockwise, slip stitch to the base, twist it counterclockwise, and then slip and stitch into the next row. So we're just going to repeat that all the way across. I'm going to change colors for each stripe, but feel free to do whatever colors you'd like. And I'm just going to continue all the way across, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the row. So I've just reached the end now. So to finish off, I'm going to chain 1 and then tie off my yarn, cut it off, leaving a long enough tail that I can weave it in. And there you can see all of my fringe. And now I have a lot of little ends to weave in. So I'm going to weave in all of my ends and then we're all done. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial for the Bonfire blanket. You can find the ad-free PDF version of this pattern in my Etsy shop and on Ravelry, and the free written pattern on my blog. You can find links to all those down below. And I'd love to see your finished creation, so please tag me on Instagram @theturtletrunk so I can see. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time.